Good day, everyone. Today we're going to discuss a complex economic issue, the impact of high fiscal deficit. A fiscal deficit occurs when a government's spending exceeds its revenue. In simpler terms, it's when a government borrows more money than it earns through taxes. Now let's talk about the potential positive impacts of a high fiscal deficit. In economic downturns, a high fiscal deficit can act as a stimulus. Increased government spending can boost aggregate demand, create jobs, and stimulate economic growth. For instance, during the Great Recession, many governments implemented fiscal stimulus packages to prevent a deeper economic downturn. Investment in public goods. A high fiscal deficit can allow governments to invest in essential public goods and services that might not be feasible with lower levels of spending. For example, investment in infrastructure, education, and healthcare can improve long-term economic prospects. Addressing social inequities. Public expenditure financed by a higher fiscal deficit can help address social inequalities by providing essential services to disadvantaged populations. For instance, government programs that support education, healthcare, and housing can reduce poverty and improve quality of life. Potential negative impacts of high fiscal deficit. If a government finances a high fiscal deficit by printing money, it can lead to inflation, which is, well, a sustained increase in the general price level. Excessive money supply can erode the purchasing power of consumers and destabilize the economy. Debt accumulation. A persistent high fiscal deficit can lead to a significant accumulation of government debt. This can constrain future government spending and increase the risk of a debt crisis. For example, countries with high levels of debt may face challenges in attracting foreign investment and financing their obligations. Crowding out effect. A high fiscal deficit can crowd out private investment. When governments borrow money, it can increase interest rates, making it more expensive for businesses to borrow funds for investment. For example, a rise in interest rates can discourage private sector investment and hinder economic growth. The importance of context. The impact of a high fiscal deficit depends on the specific economic circumstances. During economic downturns, a higher deficit may be necessary to prevent a deeper recession. However, in times of robust economic growth, a persistent high deficit may be less sustainable. The debt-to-GDP ratio is a key indicator of a country's fiscal health. A high debt-to-GDP ratio can increase the risk of a debt crisis. Effective government policies can help mitigate the negative consequences of a high fiscal deficit. For example, structural reforms and measures to improve tax efficiency can enhance revenue generation and reduce the need for excessive borrowing. Conclusion. A balanced approach to fiscal policy is essential. While a higher fiscal deficit can be beneficial in certain circumstances, it's crucial to manage it responsibly to avoid negative consequences. The impact of a high fiscal deficit must be evaluated on a case-by-case basis, considering factors such as economic conditions, debt levels, and government policy.